I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach parents and children how to govern themselves, which basically means how to follow instructions, accept no answers, accept consequences, disagree appropriately, how to obey. Parents need to learn how to obey themselves and self-govern themselves, and the children need to learn how to obey their parents and themselves too. There are many frustrated parents that ask me how to make kids listen and obey. That's what they say. And that's what we're going to talk about in this video. In order to learn self-government, there has to be a certain type of a tone and a certain type of a structure. And one of the tone elements that we don't use is force. So the opposite of force is trust. We have to trust that a person can choose to obey, which actually means that we can't make anyone obey. They have to decide that they want to obey. Now, you could forcefully move someone to a position where you've decided in their own head that they are obeying. But if there is no will to be in that location or to do that thing that you are making them do, then they are technically not obeying you. In this video, we're going to talk about the requirements for obedience. We're going to talk about different skills that a person needs in order to be able to obey and listen more properly. And we're going to talk about how to correct the problems if somebody does not listen or obey. And if you stay with me that far, we're going to give you some other things too. So what is obedience? Years ago, I was asked to speak at a conference in Virginia, and they said, could you please talk to us about obedience and how to help our children obey? And so I thought, oh yeah, sure, I understand obedience. Well, I thought for fun that I would actually look up the definition of obedience. So I went to my favorite dictionary, which is Webster's 1828 dictionary, and I looked up the word obedience. And it actually said that a person cannot obey or have obedience unless they first learn the law. If you don't know the law first, then when you make a decision that would go against the law, you're not technically disobeying. You just made a bad decision. One of the principles of self-government that I teach is a principle called pre-teaching, which means that you teach somebody ahead of time what they need to do, what's expected of them, and what the positive and negative consequences will be if they choose to do that thing that they're supposed to do, or if they choose not to. There are always positive and negative consequences with every decision we make. That's just sort of the laws of nature. We may not get to see those negative or positive consequences immediately, but they're always there. And if we went back to analyze our decisions, we would be able to see very clearly how our decisions led to these positive and negative consequences. So a big part of obedience is understanding cause and effect. So pre-teaching. Let's pre-teach our children what they need to know ahead of time so that they can properly listen to us and properly obey. So we start with the law, and then we justly govern in our family according to the law. So what are some of the laws that you have in your family? Do you have certain skills that the children need to learn or that you teach them? Do you have certain principles that your family follows? Or do you have family rules that are regulations or standards that everybody follows in your family? Those are part of your law. Those are the things that you need to be constantly teaching ahead of time. When you have to correct something because it didn't go right and you've got to teach them cause and effect, then you're going to have to go back to more teaching moments. That spirit of pre-teaching should be in every communication that you have with your children. They will learn from you better if you're constantly paving the way for them to do the things that they need to do to find happiness and to help unify with the family in the relationships and the tasks that need to be done. Pre-teaching is a tone element as well as a structural element. So when you pre-teach someone the law, you do it with this tone or feeling of total trust that they can learn these skills, they can learn these family rules or laws, principles, the things that you're teaching them, and that they will follow through properly. But it's also structural, because if you're teaching them skills in a really good way, those skills will have steps, things that they can hold on to so that you know where to fix the problems when they occur in the future. In our family, we teach 4 basic skills. These 4 basic skills take care of 99% of all of the behavioral problems. And you can learn a lot about these 4 basic skills in my Teaching Self-Government Parenting course, which is on my website, teachingselfgovernment.com. But just to go into brief detail about these 4 skills, they are following instructions, accepting no answers and criticism, accepting consequences, and disagreeing appropriately. Each one of these 4 basic skills has a skill set attached to it. So for instance, to follow an instruction, you look at the person, keep a calm face, voice, and body, you say okay, or you ask to disagree appropriately, which is another one of the skill sets that we teach, and then you do the task immediately and check back. If a person does not accomplish all 5 of those steps to following an instruction, then they need to be corrected. But this correction is done with a tone of acceptance, a tone of love, and a tone of peace, so that the child cannot feel attacked because they did something wrong, so that there can be a feeling of unity. I always tell people you should feel closer to your children during and after a correction than you even did before. They should be bonding moments. So let's talk about correction. If you're going to teach your children cause and effect, then you have to praise them when things go well, and you have to correct them when things do not go well or when they've made the wrong choice. If you don't praise and correct consistently, then your home will adopt a tone of manipulation. So that means that people will try to get away with whatever they can get away with when somebody's not watching, or when somebody's worn out or doesn't care that day. This means that parent diligence is vital in order to teach your children how to listen to you and how to obey. So part of listening to you is being able to focus on what the lesson is you're teaching. If you've pre-taught the person ahead of time, this is the skill, this is the lesson, then when you get to the correction step, you're reminding them of something they've already learned before, which means it's not very hard for them to grasp onto. And so that teaching moment becomes much easier for them. In fact, it oftentimes feels comfortable. That's the power of the pre-teaching that happens ahead of time. So how do you do a correction? In the Teaching Self-Government Parenting program, in our course that we teach, we talk about 7 steps for correcting. One of those steps, one of those important steps, is describing. So instead of reacting at the beginning of a correction, you should describe, this is what happened. And this is what should have happened. There are other steps to that, and I'm not going to get into all of them because we don't have time in this video. But if you can remember to describe, describing will keep you hopefully from reacting and saying stuff like, why did you do that? What were you thinking? And some of those things that always makes the child say, I don't know. Because they really don't know usually why they made that impulsive decision, which turned out to be something other people didn't like, or was even a bad decision because it was disobedient. So you must correct and consistently correct. But the way that you correct, the tone that you carry with you in that correction is probably the hardest part. Let's talk about that. The tone that is the most productive for correcting your children is a tone of connection, which means that you look in their eyes and you think of their potential and who they are, and you actually bond to them in the moment where you're telling them that there was something they did that wasn't a right choice or was maybe disobedient, and that they need to be making a different choice, and this is what they earn from that. And when you go through the additional teaching that you need to do to make sure that it doesn't happen again in the future, it's all done with a spirit of connection, which is best done when looking in the eyes and looking into the heart of the other person. It's also done with trust. trusting that the person can understand what you're teaching them and that they want to do better and they want to do good. Also, understanding. Let's take a little bit of time to understand why a person might have made the bad decision or the mistake that they made. Instead of taking it personally, let's understand. That doesn't mean we don't correct it, because we definitely still correct it. But we can correct it with a spirit of understanding instead of a spirit of condemnation. Probably one of the most important tone elements, in fact, I'm going to say it is the most important tone element that a parent can master, is calmness. If you want your children to listen to you, if you want them to obey you, you've got to be worth listening to. You've got to have that feeling of truth with you. If you're out of control, then you are being manipulative, and they feel it. You may not think you're being manipulative, but that's what it feels like to everybody else. It feels like controlling. Someone's controlling. This also happens if you back away or you're passive. You need to be calm. This calmness is a type of an assertiveness that's pre-planned and prepared ahead of time for the difficult situation before it even comes. When I was a foster parent for troubled teens, I had to master my calmness. Otherwise, I would have just engaged in fights with them because I have a strong-willed personality. So I could fight if I really wanted to. But I took that strong-willed nature, that part of myself, and I turned it on myself and said, how about you use your strong will, Nicholeen, to control you, to really, truly be able to be calm in any situation. That's what I did. That calmness is key. If you are calm, they won't feel threatened by you. They'll feel like you're safe to learn from. And that's a vital piece for creating that environment where children will learn and listen and obey. I want to give you a gift. This gift is a calm parenting toolkit. In fact, if you go to a link right below this video, it says Calm Parenting Toolkit. If you click that link, you'll get the toolkit for free. If you can master your calmness, you can master anything. You can have the self-government that you need to teach them self-government and control too. When you're asking the question, how do I get them to listen to me and to obey? What you're really asking is, how do I get them to desire to control themselves? Well, it starts with you being able to control yourself too. The Calm Parenting Toolkit is going to give you the calm tools you need to control yourself and the calm tools you need to help them be in control when they go out of control too. Click the link below.